The gallery lights cast harsh shadows across my latest work, turning the vibrant reds into something darker, more ominous, like blood seeping through canvas. I should have known better than to invite her, but Ethan insisted his mother deserved to be here. Family obligation and all that bullshit. I'm Lillian, and tonight was supposed to be my breakthrough moment. 5 years of struggle, of paint-stained fingers and rejection letters, had led to this, my first solo exhibition at the Preston Gallery. The space hummed with the quiet murmur of Atlanta's art scene elite, their wine glasses clinking as they moved from piece to piece. Derivative, Vivian's voice cut through the ambient chatter. The technique is amateur at best. Look at those brush strokes, completely lacking in sophistication. My hands trembled as I watched her hold court before my centerpiece, fractured reality. A group of potential buyers hung on her every word, nodding along as she dissected my work with surgical precision. The composition is chaotic without purpose. This is exactly the kind of work that diminishes the credibility of serious galleries. Maya squeezed my arm. Don't let her get to you, she whispered. She's just jealous. But Vivian wasn't finished. She turned, catching my eye across the room. Her lips curved into that familiar smile, the one that never quite reached her eyes. Oh, Lillian dear, I didn't see you there. I was just explaining to these lovely people about the importance of proper artistic training, something that, unfortunately, seems to be lacking here. The room grew quiet, too quiet. I could feel every eye on me, waiting for my response. Ethan stepped forward, his face flushed. Mother, that's enough. I'm simply being honest, darling. Someone needs to maintain standards in this industry. We can't let sentiment cloud our judgment, even when family is involved. The word family dripped with disdain. 5 years of snide comments and backhanded compliments crystallized in that moment. I watched as 3 potential buyers made their excuses and drifted away, their business cards staying firmly in their pockets. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, I'd love to hear more about these standards of yours, Vivian, especially since your last design project was a carbon copy of a spread from Architectural Digest. Her eyes narrowed. How dare you? The Morrison house, wasn't it? The one you claimed was an original concept? I still have the magazine, if you'd like to compare notes. The silence that followed was deafening. Vivian's perfectly manicured hand tightened around her wine glass. Ethan, control your wife. No, he said quietly. You don't get to do this. Not tonight. She turned on her heel and left, but the damage was done. The remaining guests began to disperse, murmuring amongst themselves. The gallery owner, Mr. Preston, approached with an apologetic look that told me everything I needed to know about future exhibitions. Later that night, as I stood alone in the gallery, I studied fractured reality, really looked at it. Every brushstroke represented a piece of myself, raw and honest. Vivian hadn't just criticized my art, she'd tried to erase me. My phone buzzed, a social media notification. Someone had shared a scathing review of my exhibition, focusing on my lack of formal training and questionable artistic merit. The author? Anonymous, but the writing style was unmistakable. I'm so sorry, Ethan said from behind me. I never thought she'd go this far. I touched the canvas gently, tracing the lines I'd painted with such hope. Don't be. She finally showed me exactly who she is. I turned to face him, something cold and determined settling in my chest. And now I know exactly what I need to do. The gallery lights flickered off one by one, leaving only shadows and the beginning of a plan that would make Vivian regret ever questioning my artistic vision or my worth. 3 days after the gallery disaster, I stood in Ethan's in my kitchen, staring at the invitation Vivian had just texted us, Sunday brunch at her house. A family reconciliation, she called it. My phone screen cracked slightly under my grip. We don't have to go, Ethan said, placing his coffee mug on the counter. The dark circles under his eyes matched mine. Neither of us had slept well since the exhibition. Yes, we do. I showed him the rest of the message. She'd invited the Prestons, the gallery owners, and several other influential art scene figures. Your mother's turning this into a power play. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too confined. I moved to the window, watching our neighbor Ryan chase his escaped cat across his front yard. The normality of the scene felt surreal compared to the chaos in my head. I'll call and cancel, Ethan offered, reaching for his phone. That's exactly what she wants, to make me look petty and unprofessional. I turned back to him. Besides, Mr. Preston already texted to confirm he's coming. Apparently your mother convinced him she needs his expertise on some renovation project. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's manipulating the situation. When isn't she? The doorbell rang. Maya stood outside, holding a bottle of wine and wearing her "I've got news" expression. I let her in, noticing how she glanced between Ethan and me before speaking. "So, I just left the Morrison house showing," she said, setting the wine down. "Guess who was there, telling everyone about your unfortunate artistic choices and how they reflect poorly on the family's reputation?" My stomach clenched. The Morrisons were potential clients, wealthy ones. Of course she was. "There's more," Maya continued. "She's been appointed to the Arts Council's advisory board, the same board that reviews grant applications." The grants. I'd spent weeks preparing my application for their emerging artist program. The deadline was next month, and it could have been my chance to recover from the gallery fiasco. Ethan swore under his breath. "I'll talk to her." "Don't," I cut him off. "It'll only make things worse." I picked up Maya's wine bottle, studying the label without really seeing it. "We're going to that brunch." "Lillian?" His voice carried a note of warning. "Trust me." I managed a smile that felt more like a grimace. "Your mother wants to play games? Fine. But she's not the only one who knows how to manipulate a situation." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Vivian. "Wear something appropriate, dear. The Prestons are quite traditional." I showed them the message. "First, we're going shopping. I need the perfect outfit for Sunday." "The perfect outfit for what?" Ethan asked. "For making your mother realize she's not the only one who can put on a show." I grabbed my car keys. "She wants appropriate? I'll give her appropriate. So appropriate it'll make her teeth ache." Maya grinned. "I know just the place." Ethan watched us with growing concern. "Just be careful. You know how she can twist things." "Oh, I'm counting on it." I kissed him quickly. "Your mother thinks she's protecting her reputation by destroying mine. But reputations are funny things. They can shatter so easily when people see what's beneath the surface." As Maya and I headed for the door, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Something had changed in my expression since the gallery night. The hurt was still there, but it had hardened into something sharper, more focused. "You're scary when you smile like that," Maya observed as we got into my car. "Good," I replied, starting the engine. "Because Sunday brunch is going to be quite the performance, and this time, I'm not the one who's going to end up looking derivative." Through the rearview mirror, I watched Ethan standing in the doorway, his expression torn between support and worry. He knew as well as I did, this was just the beginning. Vivian had spent years crafting her perfect image, her flawless reputation. She never imagined that someone like me, someone she considered beneath her, could be the one to make it all unravel. Sunday couldn't come soon enough. The Sunday brunch was a masterpiece of passive aggression, right down to the way Vivian had arranged the seating to put me as far from the Prestons as possible. I sat there in my carefully chosen outfit, a conservative dress that somehow made me look both proper and like I was trying too hard, watching her work the room. Ryan's text vibrated in my clutch. "Got the screenshots you needed. You won't believe what I found." I excused myself to the powder room, my heels clicking against Vivian's imported marble floors. Once inside, I pulled up the images Ryan had sent. Dozens of screenshots from art community forums, anonymous posts spanning months, all subtly undermining my work, my character, my dedication to art. The writing style was unmistakable. "Everything okay in there, dear?" Vivian's voice carried through the door, honey sweet with underlying venom. "Perfect," I called back, quickly saving the evidence. "Just freshening up." When I returned, Mr. Preston was deep in conversation with Vivian about her upcoming projects. "The Morrison renovation is just the beginning," she was saying. "I'm thinking of launching a mentorship program for young artists to help guide them toward more appropriate artistic expressions." Maya caught my eye from across the table, her fork paused halfway to her mouth. We both knew what appropriate meant in Vivian's world. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying just enough to draw attention, "I'd love to hear more about your vision for young artists, especially since you've joined the Arts Council's grant committee." Vivian's smile tightened. "Oh, you heard about that? Yes, someone needs to maintain standards." "Like you did with the Morrison house?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. The table went quiet. Ethan touched my arm in warning, but I was already committed. "I'm not sure I follow," Mr. Preston said, looking between us. "It's nothing," Vivian said quickly. "Lillian's just—" "I was admiring your work in Architectural Digest," I continued, pulling out my phone. "The original article, I mean, from 2 years ago, the one you used as inspiration for the Morrisons. Color drained from Vivian's face. That's a ridiculous accusation. Is it? I pulled up the magazine spread Ryan had found. The layout is identical. Even the custom pieces are similar enough to raise questions about intellectual property. The Prestons exchanged glances. Other guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mother, Ethan's voice was quiet but firm. Is this true? Of course not, she snapped. This is exactly the kind of unprofessional behavior I was warning everyone about. Making wild accusations without... I have more, I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Would you like to see the forum posts too? The ones where you've been systematically trying to destroy my reputation? Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Several guests started whispering among themselves. Vivian stood abruptly, her napkin falling to the floor. I think it's time for everyone to leave. But we haven't had dessert, I said, matching her saccharine tone from earlier. And you went to so much trouble, setting everything up perfectly. The seating arrangement, the guest list, the timing, just like you set up everything else. Ethan, she appealed to her son, control your wife. He stood slowly. No, Mother, I think we need to hear this. There's nothing to hear, she hissed. This is a family matter. Family? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is that what you call it when you try to destroy someone's career? When you spread lies and manipulate people against them? I was protecting our family's reputation. You were protecting yourself, I cut in. But you made one mistake, Vivian. You assumed I was as powerless as you wanted me to be. The room erupted into chaos. Guests began making hurried excuses, gathering their things. The Prestons lingered, their expressions a mix of shock and professional interest. Through it all, Vivian stood frozen, her perfect facade cracking like old paint. As people filed out, she grabbed my arm. You have no idea what you've done. I leaned in close, speaking softly so only she could hear. Actually, I do. This was just the opening act. You taught me well, Vivian, about reputation, about influence, about power. And I'm just getting started. I felt Ethan's presence behind me, solid and supportive, as I walked out of Vivian's house. In my clutch, my phone buzzed with new messages. Probably Ryan with more evidence, or Maya with support, or the beginning of the social fallout I'd just triggered. The war was officially on, and I had finally learned to play by Vivian's rules. The email from the Arts Council arrived 3 days after the brunch disaster. I stared at my laptop screen, my coffee growing cold beside me. Not just rejected, blacklisted. Every grant application I'd submitted had been withdrawn, citing ethical concerns about my professional conduct. My phone lit up with Maya's call. Have you seen the article? What article? Art Scene Weekly, front page of their website. I pulled it up, my hands shaking slightly. The headline hit like a physical blow. Rising Artist History of Plagiarism Raises Questions About Authenticity. The byline was anonymous, but the quotes were all attributed to respected sources within the Atlanta art community. She's trying to destroy me, I whispered. Lillian? Ethan's voice came from behind me. I slammed the laptop shut, but his expression told me he'd seen enough. We need to talk. Maya's voice crackled through the phone. I'll call Ryan. We need to move faster. I ended the call as Ethan sat across from me. The morning light caught the new lines around his eyes, making him look older than his 30 years. I got a call from my father this morning, he said quietly. Mother's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What? Anxiety attack, apparently, after what happened at brunch. He ran a hand through his hair. The doctors are keeping her for observation. She's manipulating you, I said, but the words felt hollow. This is exactly what she does. Is it? Or are we becoming just like her? The question hung between us like smoke. I opened my laptop again, showing him the article, the rejection emails. Look what she's doing. She's systematically destroying everything I've worked for. And what are we destroying in return? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The preview showed just 2 words. Call me. Below it was a name I hadn't heard in years. Uncle Greg. I need some air, I said, standing abruptly. Outside the morning was too bright, too normal. I dialed Uncle Greg's number with trembling fingers. I saw the article, he said without preamble. Vivian hasn't changed. You know her? A bitter laugh. Better than most. I was the family black sheep before you came along. Ask her about the Hamilton Gallery scandal of '95 sometime. Ask her what really happened to her first interior design partnership. My breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying you're not the first person she's tried to destroy, and you won't be the last unless someone stops her. I leaned against the porch railing, watching Ryan chase his cat again next door. The normalcy of it felt surreal. Why are you telling me this now? Because you need to understand what you're dealing with. Vivian doesn't just want to win, she needs to annihilate anyone she sees as a threat. I learned that the hard way. What happened? Meet me at the Riverside Cafe tomorrow at noon. There's something you need to see. The line went dead. I stood there, feeling the morning sun turn hot on my skin, when Ryan's voice called over the fence. Hey, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I turned to him, an idea forming. Your photography archive, how far back does it go? 10 years, maybe? Why? Because I need you to find something for me. About the Hamilton Gallery, 1995. He raised an eyebrow. That's weirdly specific. Trust me, I said, already heading toward his house. This could change everything. Through the window, I could see Ethan still sitting at our kitchen table, head in his hands. The sight made my chest ache, but I pushed the feeling down. There would be time for guilt later. Right now, I needed to decide. Follow Uncle Greg down this rabbit hole, or step back before we all destroyed each other. The answer should have been obvious, but something dark and determined had taken root in my heart. I caught my reflection in Ryan's window. I barely recognized myself anymore. Maybe that was the point. Maybe you had to become something else entirely to fight monsters like Vivian. Coming? Ryan called from his front door. I straightened my shoulders and walked toward him. Show me everything you've got. The Hamilton Gallery photos spread across Ryan's desk like evidence at a crime scene. 25 years of history captured in fading prints and newspaper clippings. My hands trembled as I picked up a yellowed article announcing the gallery's sudden closure. Found these in the Chronicle's archives, Ryan said, pointing to a particular image. Look familiar? The photograph showed the younger Vivian standing beside a ruined exhibition. Behind her, a man, Uncle Greg, was being escorted out by security. The headline read, Local artist accused of forgery, gallery partnership dissolved. Maya burst through Ryan's front door, clutching her tablet. You need to see this. Vivian's just announced a major retrospective of her work. She's calling it Legacy of Truth. When? I asked, my mouth dry. 3 weeks at the Hamilton Gallery. The irony made me laugh, a harsh sound that scared even me. She's really going to showcase stolen designs in the same place where she destroyed Uncle Greg? There's more, Maya said quietly. She's dedicating it to Ethan, in recognition of family loyalty and artistic integrity. My phone buzzed. Ethan's text. Where are you? Mother's being released today. She wants us all at dinner. Don't go, Maya warned. It's obviously a trap. I gathered the damning photos, my mind racing. No, this is perfect. We'll have everyone who matters in one room. Ryan grabbed my arm. Lillian, wait. Look at yourself. I caught my reflection in his window again. Dark circles under my eyes, hair unkempt, something feral in my expression. For a moment, I saw Vivian in my face, and it terrified me. You're right, I said, smoothing my hair. I need to be smarter than her, more controlled. My phone rang. Uncle Greg. I've been trying to reach you. Don't do anything yet. There's something you don't know about? The Hamilton Gallery? I know everything. I cut him off, riding a wave of cold certainty. And I know exactly what to do with it. Lillian, listen. I ended the call. Maya, I need you to contact everyone who's been invited to Vivian's retrospective. Ryan, get those photos digitized. I want them ready for opening night. What are you planning? Ryan asked. A legacy of truth, I smiled, echoing Vivian's words. Just not the one she's expecting. I headed for the door, but Maya blocked my path. This isn't you, Lil. You're an artist, not a destroyer. Maybe I'm both now. Isn't that what Vivian's been teaching me? The drive to Vivian's house felt surreal. Perfect houses lined perfect streets, hiding God knows what behind their perfect facades. Like Vivian herself, all surface, no substance, Ethan waited on the front steps. There you are. I've been worried. Don't be. Everything's going to work out exactly as it should. Inside, Vivian held court in her dining room, looking remarkably recovered from her supposed breakdown. Darling, you came. I was just telling everyone about my upcoming show. The table was full of art world influencers, gallery owners, critics, collectors, all the people who'd turned their backs on me after her Whisper campaign. They avoided my eyes, focusing on their expensive wine. Wouldn't miss it, I said, taking my seat. After all, it's about family legacy, isn't it? Something flickered in Vivian's eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear. Good. Speaking of legacy, I continued, I've been doing some fascinating research about the Hamilton Gallery's history. Vivian's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Ancient history, dear. Hardly relevant now. Oh, I disagree. Some things are timeless, like the truth about stolen art and ruined reputations. The room grew thick with tension. Ethan touched my knee under the table, a warning or support, I couldn't tell anymore. More wine? Vivian asked brightly, but her hand shook as she reached for the bottle. I smiled, channeling her own practiced sweetness. No, thank you. I want to be perfectly clear-headed for your exhibition. It's going to be quite a revelation. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Around us, conversations resumed, but the damage was done. I'd planted the seed of doubt, and from Vivian's expression, she knew it. The game was changing. No more subtle manipulations or polite pretense. We were moving towards something darker, more absolute. And somehow, I'd stopped caring about the cost. The night before Vivian's retrospective, I stood in my studio, surrounded by the evidence we'd gathered. Photos, documents, forum posts, a paper trail of destruction spanning decades. My phone buzzed with another missed call from Uncle Greg. I'd stopped answering days ago. Maya burst in without knocking. Vivian's made her move! She handed me her tablet. The Arts Council had just announced their new initiative, a mentorship program for ethical artistic development, with Vivian as its director. The press release included a thinly veiled reference to recent controversies in the local art scene. She's positioning herself as the guardian of artistic integrity, Maya said, while systematically destroying yours. My hands shook as I set down the tablet. Tomorrow night. About that, Maya's expression tightened. Ryan's been fired. The Hamilton Gallery claims they received evidence of professional misconduct. What? But we need him to... It gets worse. Check your email. The message was from Ethan. Subject line: I know what you're planning. I opened it, my throat constricting. Inside was a single line. Mother showed me everything. How could you? Showed him what? Maya asked. Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Vivian. My house, now, alone. Don't go. Maya grabbed my arm. She's trying to... I have to. I gathered the evidence files. This ends tonight. Vivian's house blazed with lights, every window a harsh accusation. She opened the door before I could knock, perfect as always in her designer outfit. Behind her, Ethan sat at the dining room table, his face ashen. Show her, Vivian said. He pushed a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of emails, conversations between me and various gallery owners, critics, even grant committee members. Each one showed me apparently threatening to expose their personal indiscretions unless they blacklisted Vivian. These are fake, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. Are they? Vivian's smile was razor sharp. Like the Hamilton Gallery photos are fake? The ones you've been using to threaten my reputation? You destroyed Uncle Greg. Greg destroyed himself, she cut in, just like you're doing now, obsessing over imagined slights, manufacturing evidence, alienating everyone who loves you. Ethan, I turned to him. You know me. You know I wouldn't. Do I? He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. You've changed, Lillian. The woman I married wouldn't plot revenge, wouldn't manipulate people, wouldn't become... Become what? Like her, he whispered. The words hit like physical blows. I stumbled back, clutching my evidence files, suddenly unsure of everything they contained. The retrospective starts at 7 tomorrow, Vivian said softly. If you try anything, these emails go public. Your career won't just be damaged, it will be obliterated. And this time it really will be your fault. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Greg, this time I answered. This time I... Lillian, listen, his voice was urgent. The Hamilton Gallery situation, it wasn't what you think. I did forge those pieces. Vivian tried to stop me, tried to protect the gallery's reputation. I'm the one who... I hung up, my world tilting sideways. The evidence files slipped from my hands, scattering across Vivian's perfect floor like fallen leaves. You see? Vivian's voice was almost gentle. You've been so focused on revenge you couldn't see the truth. Just like Greg couldn't. I looked at Ethan, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Everything I'd built, my marriage, my career, my sense of justice, was crumbling around me. The mentorship program starts next month, Vivian continued. I'd like you to be my first student. We can rebuild your reputation properly this time. The offer hung in the air like poison. I could take it, submit to her vision, become what she wanted, or I could lose everything. I walked out without answering, leaving the scattered evidence behind. In my car, I sat staring at nothing until Maya called. Well? It's over, I said. We were wrong about everything. Lillian. The retrospective opens tomorrow at 7. I started the engine. Don't come. I drove home in darkness, my headlights catching glimpses of perfect houses with perfect lives inside. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost sight of my own reflection, becoming something I no longer recognized. The question was, could I find my way back? The Hamilton Gallery hummed with Atlanta's elite, all gathered to witness Vivian's triumphant return. I slipped in through the service entrance, my heart thundering against my ribs. Maya's text flashed on my phone. Are you sure about this? I didn't respond. Instead, I moved through the shadows of the gallery's back rooms, where my own paintings hung covered in black cloth. Vivian had insisted on including them, to show there are no hard feelings. One final manipulation. The main gallery erupted in applause as Vivian began her speech. Art is truth, her voice carried through the speakers. It reveals who we really are. I pulled back the first cloth, revealing what I'd been working on since that night at her house. Not evidence of her past crimes, something far more dangerous. The truth. The painting showed Vivian as I saw her, beautiful, powerful, and hollow. Every brushstroke captured the precise way she wielded her smile like a weapon, the calculated warmth that never reached her eyes. But beneath that perfect surface, I'd painted something else, a reflection of what she'd made me become. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivian continued, I dedicate this exhibition to family, to legacy. I stepped into the main gallery. To truth? The crowd parted. Vivian's smile flickered as she saw me, then steadied. Lillian, dear, I didn't think you'd come. You taught me well about appearances. I gestured to the back rooms. Would you like to see your legacy? Before she could respond, the first guests wandered into the side gallery. I heard their gasps, saw them pull out phones to capture the images. Vivian's mask slipped. Security, she called, but Maya had already started projecting the images onto the main gallery walls. Not the old Hamilton Gallery photos, but my paintings. Each one a mirror reflecting the subtle violence of perfectionism, the quiet brutality of manipulation. What are you doing? Vivian hissed, grabbing my arm. Showing them who we really are. I pulled free. Both of us. The crowd pressed into the side gallery now, murmuring as they recognized themselves in the paintings, the social climbers, the power players, all caught in Vivian's web. And at the center, the final canvas. Vivian and me, so similar in our destruction that we'd become almost indistinguishable. You can't, she started. Already did. I turned to face her fully. You wanted to mentor me. Congratulations. I learned everything you had to teach. Ethan pushed through the crowd, stopping short when he saw the paintings. His eyes moved from canvas to canvas, recognition dawning. This isn't evidence, I said quietly. It's confession. Everything we've both become. Security! Vivian called again, her voice cracking. Remove these immediately! But the crowd was captivated. Critics were already typing on their phones, discussing the raw honesty, the brutal self-reflection. Even the Prestons stood transfixed before the largest piece. You'll destroy us both, Vivian whispered. Maybe that's the only way to end this. Uncle Greg appeared at the gallery entrance, looking older than I remembered. He took in the scene, the paintings, the crowd, Vivian's crumbling composure. Finally, he said, someone brave enough to tell the truth. Vivian's laugh was brittle. Truth? You're as much a fraud as she is. Yes, I agreed. That's what makes these honest. The gallery erupted in discussion as more people recognized themselves in the work. Not just Vivian's victims, but her enablers. The whole ecosystem of power and pretense laid bare. Mother, Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. Is this really who we are? Vivian straightened, smoothing her designer dress. For a moment, I saw something real flash across her face. Pain, recognition, maybe even respect. The exhibition is over, she announced, but no one moved to leave. They were too busy sharing photos, discussing implications, dissecting the layers of meaning in each brutal stroke. I felt Maya's hand on my shoulder. You okay? No, I answered honestly, but maybe that's the point. The paintings glowed under the gallery lights, each one a step in our shared descent. Not evidence of past crimes, but proof of what we'd done to ourselves and each other in pursuit of power. Vivian stood alone in the center of her ruined retrospective, perfectly poised even now. We locked eyes across the gallery, recognition passing between us. In destroying her, I'd exposed myself. In becoming her, I'd finally understood her. The truth, it turned out, was both weapon and wound. The art critics called it a masterwork of brutal honesty. My exhibition, Reflections in Broken Glass, sold out its entire run. The same people who'd shunned me now praised my unflinching examination of power dynamics in the art world. They loved how I'd exposed the ugly truth, never realizing they were part of it. I stood in my studio, packing the last painting, the one of Vivian and me, mirror images of destruction. Maya helped wrap it in protective cloth. "The buyer's willing to pay double," she said. Apparently, Vivian's public breakdown made it more valuable. I tied off the wrapping. Of course it did. The breakdown had been spectacular. After the Hamilton Gallery showing, Vivian had tried to maintain her facade. But when the Arts Council requested her resignation and her clients began canceling contracts, something cracked. She'd shown up at my studio one rainy evening, perfectly dressed as always, but something was different. "You've won," she'd said simply. "I taught you too well." Now she was in Switzerland, taking a sabbatical according to official statements, the art world's polite way of saying exile. The studio doorbell rang. Ethan stood outside, looking uncertain in the way he did now, like he was trying to recognize someone he used to know. "The divorce papers are ready," he said quietly. I nodded. We both knew it was coming. You can't burn down someone's mother without consequences, even if she deserved it. "I saw Uncle Greg yesterday," he continued. "He's worried about you." "Why?" "He says you remind him of someone who started out trying to protect her art and ended up losing herself instead." The parallel wasn't lost on me. I turned back to the wrapped painting, running my fingers along its edges. "The Museum of Modern Art called," Maya interrupted too brightly. "They want to discuss a permanent installation. Success. Everything I'd wanted. Everything Vivian had tried to deny me. So why did it feel like ashes in my mouth?" "You should take it," Ethan said. "You've earned it." "Have I?" I looked at my hands, stained with paint and metaphorical blood. Or did I just become a better player at her game? The studio felt suddenly too small, too full of ghosts. Mine, Vivian's, Uncle Greg's. A legacy of artistic vengeance passed down like a family heirloom. Ryan appeared in the doorway, camera in hand. "Found something you should see." He showed us the photo on his screen, Vivian at the Hamilton Gallery 25 years ago. She was standing before her first exhibition, young and hungry and real in a way I'd never seen her. Before the masks, before the manipulation, before she became the monster who would destroy others to protect herself. "She was us once," I whispered. Maya touched my arm. "But you're not her." "Aren't I?" I gestured to the wrapped painting. "Look what I did to her. Look what I became to do it." "The difference," Ethan said softly, "is that you can still see it." The truth hung between us like smoke. I'd won the war, but the victory had transformed me. The question wasn't whether I'd become like Vivian, but whether I could stop myself from going further. I picked up my brushes, still crusted with the paint I'd used to destroy her. "I need to work." They left quietly, understanding. I set up a fresh canvas, stark white, unforgiving. My reflection stared back from the studio window, overlaying the blank space like a ghost. The first stroke was red, violent. The second, more controlled. I painted through the night, watching as something new emerged. Not destruction this time, but transformation. Not victory, but cost. When dawn broke, I stepped back. The canvas showed two figures, intertwined, not Vivian and me this time, but past and future selves, locked in eternal struggle. Between them, a mirror shattered into countless pieces, each reflecting a different truth. I titled it Inheritance. Some said the art world would never be the same after what I'd done. They were right, but not for the reasons they thought. I'd exposed more than Vivian's manipulation. I'd revealed the price of revenge, the way it changes you cell by cell until you become what you fought against. The question now was, what would I create from these ashes? I picked up a clean brush and began again.